Welcome to Development Communication 208, Module 1. It covers social problems, social change, and development. I am one of the reporters from this group who will talk about development. We have learned a lot from our previous course on development communication concepts and approaches, and I believe by our own words, we can now define what development is. Based on our experiences in the past or our expertise and knowledge, we can now have a definition of development, right? But for this presentation, allow me to use what Gonzales said about development, the quest for an improved quality of life for all. It is a process that involves issues and problems which call for positive social change and applies proper communication to achieve its desired objectives and goals. That is why there is development communication. And along the way, along this module, we will learn that social marketing and social mobilization exist in support to development. According to Gonzales, development is described as multidimensional, meaning it has various dimensions. It could be political, economical, social, cultural, institutional, and even uses environmental dimensions, in which case it is also multidisciplinary. It draws from various disciplines of economics, sociology, anthropology, psychology, from political science, from management and environment. And it's also interdisciplinary, where it derives its comprehensive strategic and operational plans for implementation from relationships between and among disciplines. And development is also described as integrative. It unifies diverse orientation that allows interpenetration of disciplines in order to come up different development projects or activities. Now, for Gonzales, development mobilizes people and resources. There is an advocacy here of what true development is. So for Gonzales, development mobilizes people and resources. For her, true development is people-oriented and participatory. It brings about people empowerment. It uses technology in harmony with the environment. Development must aim to be relevant, responsive, effective, efficient, economical, equitable, and sustainable. So I'd like you to refer here to the diagram in our course guide. In order for us to achieve social change or development, we must have to identify first the problems in the society. And through social marketing, by which there is a mobilization to change the behavior of the people, a mobilization to support and sustain the change in that behavior, like sources, policies, in which case it now leads to social change or advocates for social change or development. So I will go to elaborate these definitions. Development as people-centered. It enhances human growth and well-being, equity, and sustainability. People-centered, it enjoys every individual to define goals, control resources, and direct processes that affect their lives. It equips human potentials and expects high quality of life among the members of the community. So for Gonzales, development as people-centered will put first community welfare rather than economic growth. So these differs now to the early nature of development, which is production-centered, which we can draw from our economic paradigm of development. It focuses more on economic growth. Logically, it exploits the nature just to produce a greater amount of goods and services. It aims for higher economic rates without determining if people really have improved quality of life. So there's a difference between production-centered and people-centered. Now, development is also people participated, or participatory development, where masses now participate in policy making and designing, implementing, and evaluating development programs. So they are the ones that engage themselves and raises their concerns and allow themselves to participate in the community to get the social change that they need. So that is why there's grassroots development, community organizing, people empowerment. For Gonzales, without people, development will not materialize. People are not just objects of development, they are also the subjects of development. So I have here some research photos from Philippine Information Agency and from a provincial government unit and the non-government organization, which depicted community participation of certain government programs or development programs. Like a certain member of women community that raises concerns and how they think they can solve these concerns or these aids. And community coastal cleanup, a round-the-table talk between various members in the community about their peace and security and livelihood of these people, which is also created among themselves in order for them to have a sustainable income. So just an example. Moving on. So at this point, allow me to talk about the concept of sustainability in development, in the concept of preserving the environment while creating development projects. So Gonzales said, true development also sustains and preserves environment as it aims to create more projects and human activities for positive social changes. These developments must have minimal damage to the environment in order for the future generation not to suffer its consequences. It abides now to the definition of sustainable development by the United Nations. And let me quote, sustainable development has been defined as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Sustainable development calls for concerted efforts towards building an inclusive, sustainable, and resilient future for people and planet. So just an example, our Department of Energy here has various ways to sustain and conserve our environment. There's also an example of a petition for anti-dynamite fishing in order to preserve our coastal resources. We're also providing for help and aid for our fisher folks. Just a few examples. Now, allow me now to divert you here to collate the definitions of development by Mr. Andrew Sumner. And let me quote what Gore said about development. It is a long-term process of structural societal transformation. It is a major societal shift in the society in one dimension that would have implications in another dimension. It is a kind of social transformation that can be brought by emancipation from underdevelopment. It refers to a structural societal change. So I think one of the examples of this is the open educational resources. Nowadays, students can now access education without having to go to a physical classroom building. But through online or open educational resources or open universities like ours, we can have access quality education. There is also online shopping, online delivery, and cashless transactions. We can now gain goods and services at the tip of our fingers. There are also farm-to-road market where agricultural products can be sold directly to people with lower costs and sustainable housing, where the government provides housing which is sustainable in such a way that there is also an economic zone, an educational zone, a recreational zone for people to enjoy. Let me move in now to what Thomas of 2000 and 2004 defined development. He said it is a short to medium term outcome of desirable targets. So these are practices of development agencies aiming to basically reduce poverty and institutionalize development goals at a certain duration of time. So examples of these are the Millennium Development Goals, Sustainable Development Goals. Here in the Philippines, we also have the Ambisyon Natin 2040. So these are goals and outcomes which can be measured and compared with targets. In a way, it is technocratic or instrumental in nature. Policies or performance were determined and assessed by experts or policymakers. Lastly, the definition of development by Hickey and Mohan in 2003. Development is a dominant discourse of Western modernity. So it started now as a postmodern conceptualization and approach of development that emerged as reaction since World War II. And it has now provided us some kind of standard of development from the third world country in a way that consists bad change and bad outcomes through the impositions of Western ethnocentric notions of development. So for postmodernists, people and countries are inferior to other more developed people and countries. It's specifically an example or stating that the South does not have value in certain assets that the Western has. So here we kind of have an inferiority or superiority complex. Okay, it puts standard of development from the Western modernity or modernization, so to speak. These are some of the definitions of development as Sumner has collated. So here's a diagram that talks about these three definitions of development. So to end, along here, a realization that there is actually no final definition or not one final definition of development. As Velasco et al. Has stated, development thought and theory continue to evolve as the environment and insights about society change. And Sumner also discussed himself, development is a concept which is contested both theoretically and politically and is inherently both complex and ambiguous. Nevertheless, classmates, as we already have the idea and the grasp of what development is. And in order for us to achieve this development or social change that we need. So that's just an introduction for our topic about social marketing or about communication and social marketing. So that ends now my presentation. Thank you so much and God